Azeroth is a world shaped by titans and driven by ley lines throughout the area, with incredible storage of knowledge hidden in the land itself. And it's the pursuit of this knowledge, this arcane knowledge that it's inherent in the earth, that has driven the mage class to being not only shaping Azeroth's future, shaping their past, destroying Azeroth itself, but also saving Azeroth itself. The mage is a class with perhaps the most history in World of Warcraft and beyond. Whether that's the expanded universe stuff with Ronin and Khadgar and other things that we've seen, or it's World of Warcraft itself, Medivh and Kalecgos and Malygos and all of these other things that we have seen throughout World of Warcraft. There's always usually the arcane behind it. The only race not available to the mage is the Tauren. The Tauren just do not feel like arcane is right. Mages are looked at in society, usually Alliance society, as a dangerous yet needed people capable of great harm and capable of great good. So it makes sense that Tauren would not want to dabble in that type of thing. They prefer being closer to nature and not this surreal idea of the space around them. Let's get right into the game guide, class guide given to us at blizzardthebattle.net. It is as follows. Students gifted with a keen intellect and unwavering discipline may walk the path of the mage. The arcane magic available to magi is both great and dangerous, and thus is revealed only to the most devoted practitioners. To avoid interference with their spellcasting, magi wear only cloth armor, but arcane shields and enchantments give them additional protection. To keep enemies at bay, magi can summon bursts of fire to incinerate distant targets and cause entire areas to erupt, setting groups of foes ablaze. Masters of Ice can command blizzards that tear into flesh and limit movement. Should enemies manage to survive this assault, the mage can shrink them into harmless little sheep in the blink of an eye. Powerful magi can even generate enhancements and portals, assisting allies by sharpening their minds and transporting them instantly across the world. There you have it. Even in the description itself, it says that it's great, yet so dangerous. Powerful, yes, but some of the worst tragedies in Azeroth's history have come from the practicing of magic. So let's get into the classes that or the races rather, available to the mage class. Something I also want to mention is there are some that I'm not going to talk about because they're either just don't have any great founding in lore or anything like that. One such class race that I have no idea why it is able to be a mage is the Pandaren. There is nowhere in their history that I've seen them study anything about the arcane. The only thing I can kind of throw out there for you guys is that Pandaren are an ancient race. They were in the world at the time of the Sundering. So my guess is they've had some contact with the Highborn. Maybe a Highborn was in their society for a while. I don't know. Either way, the Pandaren have learned to practice the arcane arts. Whether that's because they've been living in a bastion of Titan glory, right? The hole underneath the veil is a Titan holding cell. So it could make sense that maybe they ended up finding some Titan technology that taught them the arcane arts. I don't know. I honestly don't know. For orcs, it's a little bit easier to simplify. So orcs have had warlocks, and if they have warlocks, they have mages, and I'll get into that later. Basically, warlocks are just a dirtier, grittier, went too far with their magic type of mage. So the mage orcs that you see are not reckless. They are ones that have decided to be honorable and not kind of succumb to the demons that they have, but still practice that ability. Some really very noticeable mage races in general would be one, we'll start with the Alliance, the Draenei. So a lot of people would be like, what? The Draenei? No way! Yeah, the Draenei. Because the Draenei are from the Eredar. It was basically Sargeras saw the arcane power that this race, the Eredar, had. So Sargeras went to the three leaders of the Eredar at that time, which was Velen, Kil'jaeden, and Archimonde, and basically said, I need you. You need to come with me, help me, join my legion, and in return I'll give you even more power. And of course Archimonde and Kil'jaeden, as we know, said yes. And Velen saw a prophecy and said, no way, Jose. So he left. But the Eredar have still known their arcane roots, and they come from Argus. So we have no idea what kind of magical nature is actually there. They could be the strongest mages they are, in fact, some of the strongest mages in lore history, because they have known it for so long, and they have a different take on the magic that has been practiced on Azeroth for years. Gnomes and goblins have very similar reasons why they're mages, and a lot of that comes down to this idea that they are just very curious creatures. Both of them excel in engineering and industrial ways of life, and they have dedicated their life to the pursuit of knowledge in certain things, more so the gnomes, I would argue, than the goblins. And they have absolutely driven that idea non-stop in this just craving of knowledge, so it makes sense why they would be that. Let's also move on to the humans. Now, the humans, and in talking about the humans, we'll also talk about the Blood Elves and the Night Elves, actually. We'll talk about all three in one little category. So, the Night Elves started it all. The Night Elves were, there was a sect led by Queen Azshara known as the Highborn. Now, the Highborn were practicing very, very reckless forms of arcane magic that were very, very dangerous, but also very noticeable from the Twisting Nether and other places. Twisting Nether is the land of demons and whatnot. Sargeras saw this use of arcane power and it looked very, very powerful in the Well of Eternity, and he saw this planet that had so much power, and he communicated with Azshara, who basically was like, yes, I will help you. You give me that power that you promised me, and I will help you. She also wanted to get with him. She thought they could be lovers. So the Night Elves started summoning demons and trying for their help, and another group of Night Elves basically went after them and revolted against Azshara, and it turned into the War of the Ancients, which is a very, very cool little trilogy book too, written by, I believe, Richard Knack, if you want to read that. So anyways, moving on. So the Highborn basically destroyed. They are the ones who created the Sundering themselves. The Well of Eternity was destroyed around itself, and Azshara made a pact with the Old Gods at the time that was to survive, her and her Highborn, to survive the ones in the palace anyways, survive the Sundering, and would instead become Naga on the base of the sea floor. This is very cool. But there was also some Highborn that weren't in the palace that survived. They were exiled from the Night Elven Society after they continued to practice arcane magic. Those Highborn ended up sailing across the Great Sea to the distant land. They used to be on this one half called Kalimdor, and they ended up sailing across the now formed Great Sea into what is now known as the Eastern Kingdoms, and there they formed the High Elves and built the Quel'Thalas and the Sunwell and everything else that we know today. Now, of course, the Blood Elves are descendants of the Highborn and the High Elves, so it makes sense why they are who they are. So the Blood Elves have an addiction to magic, absolutely addicted to magic, and need it. They thirst for it. They have to have it. Arcane mages are galore in their society. To the point where the High Elves are actually the ones who taught humans how to use magic. This happened during the Troll War. The humans of Erethdor, the High Elves needed the help of the humans of Erethdor. So the High Elves were basically like, please send us, we'll teach 100 humans how to use arcane magic. And from there, they trained, they won the Troll Wars, no thanks, a lot of thanks, I should say, to the humans for actually helping the High Elves. They were able to beat back the trolls and were able to survive. And the hundreds original human mages and some High Elf mages ended up going and formed the Magocracy of Dalaran. And there they continued training humans and High Elves alike, and slowly that spread throughout the entire Eastern Kingdoms and throughout the human society, which is where we also Worgen, obviously, because they're Gilnean, they were part of the Alliance at that time, and they also became adept users at magic, so totally makes sense. Undead, again, Forsaken, they're humans, so they carried over what they had in their past life. Now, dwarfs is where it gets kind of cool. So in the Cataclysm, we saw the return of the Dark Iron clan, as well as the Wildhammer clan, joining the Bronzebeard clan in Ironforge, forming the Council of Three Hammers. Now, the Dark Irons, as we know, were led by Thessarian and Moira. Moira was the daughter of Magni Bronzebeard. So the Dark Iron have always dabbled in magic, in summoning, and warlock type things, which has been very bad for them when looked at in a dwarven society, but in this, we can roll with it. So the dwarves, with the inclusion of the Dark Iron clan, they have taught their arcane ways to other dwarfs. Presumably though, however, it's still not a great thing, and some might argue that when you play a mage or warlock dwarf, you are actually playing a Dark Iron dwarf, that there are no Bronzebeard or Wildhammer dwarves that practice magic.